Contact Tracing by Team Tenacious Tracers. Contact tracing is a disease control strategy that involves identifying people who have come into contact with an infectious disease and those who have been close to them. We refer to those infected as cases and those who are potentially infected, which have been close to them, as contacts. We conduct this work for the purpose of interrupting the spread of disease. This practice has been a pillar of disease control in public health for decades in the US and for centuries throughout the world. Contact tracing in the past. The idea of contact tracing has been around for centuries. In the mid-17th century, during the bubonic plague in Europe, also known as the Black Death, King Edward III issued a set of rules and orders to stop the spread of the disease. This included painting a red cross on the doorway of houses to discourage contact with infected residents. Modern contact tracing dates back to the early 20th century. A keystone case is that of Typhoid Mary, the first person identified in the US as an asymptomatic carrier of the pathogen Salmonella typhi, or typhoid fever, a highly contagious bacterial infection which struck New York City in the early 1900s. It was George Soper, a sanitary engineer for the city of New York, who discovered people could carry and pass on the disease while appearing healthy. His interviews with patients and their families became the foundation for modern contact tracing. Success stories. Smallpox. Smallpox plagued mankind for thousands of years. The image on the right is a rendering of a woodcut from the Aztec civilization. Contact tracing succeeded thanks to a revolutionary vaccine, eradicating the virus by 1980. This was accomplished by identifying, treating, and isolating cases so they could be swiftly immunized, along with their contacts. Success stories. Ebola. In Liberia, 2014, contact tracing was employed on a massive scale, being implemented in all 15 counties in a way that was unprecedented. This played a significant role in eradication of the Ebola virus in Liberia. Here we have some Ebola tracing statistics for Liberia 2014. As you can see, contact tracing was used in nearly a third of all cases, with 4% of them being new cases. 88% of contacts completed their monitoring correspondence, with 334 being identified as probable cases. Examples of diseases where contact tracing has been utilized. In foodborne illness outbreaks for pathogens such as Salmonella and E. coli in meat. Tuberculosis, many STIs, including human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. Avian influenza, also known as bird flu. Smallpox, foot and mouth disease. The measles, the mumps, and severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, which, as we know, spawned the COVID-19 virus. Here we have a map illustrating contact tracing efforts across different continents from 2020 through 2021, with North America having rather consistent limited tracing and South America having the most comprehensive contact tracing. Parts of Central Africa and Eastern Europe have less tracing data. So what are some key components of contact tracing? Well, it's incredibly important that we gather accurate information effectively and offer accurate guidance. We gather demographic data such as age, gender, race, and location. We want to know what symptoms people are experiencing. When did they become ill and how ill? We want to know if they have had to spend any time in the hospital, if they have any needs for resources. Most importantly, it is crucial we ascertain the names and contact information for individuals who have been exposed. This allows us to offer isolation and quarantine advice to those who need it most. We also monitor the illnesses of the people we interview for the duration of their isolation. Let's get specific. We discussed how contact tracing was used in the past. Now, I'd like to talk to you a bit about contact tracing for COVID-19 and our current pandemic. Our goal. What is it we are trying to do? Well, we want to break the chain of transmission from person to person by tracing the spread and notifying contacts of exposure, which encourages them to then get tested. We then make sure they isolate if they are infected by assessing their resource needs and connecting them with help isolating when possible. So what is our role in contact tracing with COVID-19? Well, we're identifying cases and contacts through testing sites which send positive results to public health agencies. We then employ agents who trace and monitor those positive cases and their contacts. We also like to monitor the effectiveness of our contact tracing. We want to see how we're doing. We use digital tools to accomplish this, some of which, such as WAD Notify, can be used by the public. Okay. So there are some different ways that contact tracing works for COVID-19. Let's go over some steps for how we accomplish this. Step one, public health learns that someone has tested positive for COVID-19, as I mentioned in the previous slide. Step two, a contact tracer reaches out to this person and performs an investigation. Step three, next they follow up with those close contacts to inform them of possible exposure. The importance of interviews. Interviews help us to understand who is at risk. They are crucial because they help us to track possible outbreaks by following up with high-risk groups. This helps us to understand how communities are affected by COVID-19. This in turn helps us track the progress of the outbreak in our state. We get to inform people of the public health risks that are currently ongoing, as well as the public health actions that we are taking. This all contributes to determining when it is safe to return to public life. Our privacy policy. The contact tracer operates under strict confidentiality rules and asks questions that will be used only by public health agencies. The information is protected by secure systems, and information given in the interview is not shared with any contacts. It is okay to reassure the people that we interview of this fact, just in case they're worried about their information being protected. Tracing a case. Let's take a look at the workflow of tracing a case. So first we introduce ourselves and we confirm their demographics. We then conduct our detailed interview. And finally, we offer guidance and resources when needed. During that detailed interview, we will ask about symptoms. We want to know how they are feeling and when they first became sick. We'll ask about recent travel. Have they traveled outside of the county, out of the state? It's not likely that they've traveled outside of the country, but we would definitely want to know that as well. We want to know, are they employed? Have they been home and for how long? We want to know who they've been close to at any possible facilities. Have they participated in any group activities? Some that are very important to people, such as worship services or holiday gatherings, can definitely trigger mass infection events. We also double check on those demographics, and we ask about their household members. How many rooms are in the house? That helps us to find out just how close the contact has been with them and others in their household. Tracing a contact. This is what we do when we reach out to those family and friends of active cases who have been in close contact to inform them of possible exposure. We do this while still maintaining the privacy of the case. We ask some of the same questions, such as symptoms, demographics, but also more questions generating automatically when symptoms are reported, making that contact a probable case. Finally, we offer guidance and advise that they monitor their symptoms should they appear. So there are two approaches to contact tracing. Mapping the spread by tracing it forwards or prospective, or retracing the path of the spread backwards or retrospective. The origins are often part of a cluster outbreak, such as those holiday gatherings I mentioned, or worship services, for example. Throughout our experiences contact tracing, we can and will encounter resistance. It is very common when conducting our interviews to encounter this in many forms. Here are some common reasons for refusals. No time. People are often pressed for time. Many are juggling work and family life at home. Sometimes there's just no time. Some are worried about their private information, as I mentioned. They fear that their personal identifying information could be compromised in a scam. They may believe we have some ulterior motive. They may even align themselves with a certain political ideology, which promotes the idea of the current pandemic being a hoax. So what do we do when we encounter these refusals? Well, we can and do gladly offer to call people back at a time that is convenient for them to get around the timing issue. We can also explain our privacy policy and that their information is secure. We can bring to their attention that we do not ask for their social security number or any credit card information if that eases their mind. And if they're still skeptical, especially, as I said, in alliance with a political ideology, we do not try to change their mind or convince them otherwise. Instead, we ask if they would consider participating just to assist the community at large, even if it does happen to conflict with their personally held beliefs. So why are we doing this? Who are we helping? And can we really make a difference? Yes, we can make a difference. Will contact tracing really help us reopen sooner? Contact tracing is one of the best tools we have to manage this pandemic. And yes, it could help our economy to open up sooner. Pandemics affect everyone. I don't understand. We were so careful. First, I got sick, then my children did, and now my husband. How will we survive? I can't see my friends at school anymore, and Mama says we can't go to the park. Contact tracing means taking steps. We're doing our part to help our society get back to normal. We take the steps in our interview process. We take the steps in our interview process to help stop the spread. But in doing so, we also put ourselves in someone else's shoes. We have empathy for them and for their particular circumstances, even if they are very different from us and from our own experiences. And in doing so, we make human connections. And that's how we can offer the most help right now. We've got to stop the spread. The entire world has been put on hold. This is a time for us to put aside our differences and focus on tracing the path that the virus has taken. Our community is depending on us. This has been a presentation of Team Island 33 Tenacious Tracers, presented by Nicole Meehan.